This tutorial will show us how to use spreadsheets, particularly Google Sheets. And what you'll do first is you'll go to our statistics class. Let me find it here. Well, I'm already in it. And the class where I'm introducing this is Monday, February 24th, 2020. And we're going to go into the assignment called Bell Work Spreadsheet Formulas. And we're going to click on that data, and it will open up in Chrome. But what I'll notice here is that somebody else is also in this document, and I need to make my own copy. So I'm actually going to hit the back button, and now I'm going to make a copy of this for myself. So now I've got my own copy that I can mess with. So I'm hoping today that you'll see some practical applications of spreadsheets. This is an actual recipe that I use to make lasagna for my family. And what I do with this is I try to figure out how many calories, fat, sugar, and sodium there are in different meals that I make. So here are the ingredients for the lasagna. You can see cremate lasagna, ground beef, tomato sauce, and so on. And what I did was I looked on the box and I added up all of the calories for each ingredient. Oh, this has got to be a mistake. Ground beef does not have 300 calories per pound. What do we think it is here? I'm going to have to make an adjustment. Double click on it, and I would say that 1 pound of ground beef is probably more like 1,000 calories. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm going to sum all of these calories. So to do that, I'm going to go into the totals, and I'm going to type in equals, and then the sum. And now I'm going to tell it which cells I'm looking at. I'm looking at cell C2. I have to put a parenthesis first. So parenthesis. And then I want to tell it to sum from C2 down to C7 or C8. So those red highlighted cells are what I want to add together. Now I'm going to close my parenthesis. And I do not need a comma here. So again, I'm just summing. And it's pretty neat how Chrome shows you, or actually Sheets shows you what it's summing together. It's got the red dotted line around the boxes it's adding together, and then you can see those are named C2 to C8. So I'll hit return, and there's the total number of calories in that entire box, or in that entire list of ingredients. Okay, so I'll just zoom in just a little bit here. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Okay, so then what I'd like to do is I'd like to find out how many calories are in each piece of lasagna that I serve. So now I'm going to use a different formula. I'm going to take the total number of calories, the 3,320, and what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to select that cell. That cell is C9. You can see 3,320 is in column C in row 9, and then I'm going to divide that by 12 because I'm going to serve 12 people with my pan of lasagna. So each piece would have about 276 calories. If I don't like all those decimals, let's see, there is a way to modify that, but now I can't remember what it is. We'll have to look that up later. I know how to do it on a laptop. Okay, now this is what's really cool about this. A couple things. Number one, if I figured out that I made a mistake in my ground beef column, I had guessed 100 or 1,000 calories in a pound of ground beef. If I found out I was wrong, or if I switched it, say, to ground turkey, and I put in 800 calories, what happens is my values get updated in the totals and in the amount per serving. So that's really handy. The other thing that's really cool about this is that if I select these two cells, I can actually tell the computer to do the calculations by hitting autofill, and it will do the same calculations to the right. So now what I see is I know I know the total amount of fat in that pan of lasagna, and I know the fat per piece. I've got the sugar and the sugar per piece, and I've got the sodium and then the sodium per piece of lasagna. So that's, I find that function, or I find this really useful in my everyday life. Now, down at the bottom, by the way, I just tapped that check mark in the top. When you're editing a spreadsheet, so when I tap this, notice there's a check mark in the top left, and when I press that, then I go back to the view where I can see tabs. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to go to the budget and gradebook tabs, and I'd like you to see if you can use similar formulas to figure these out. I'll give you a hint. Again, the two formulas that you may choose to use are sum, and one of them is sum, that means to add everything together. And when you type that in, you're going to write equals SUM, and then a parenthesis, and then you're going to tell it which cells to add together. And you're going to name the cells based on cell names. Like that red cell is cell B4. There's B5. So I could actually just tap them and tell it to add those together. Oops, it didn't like that. I guess I have to give it a range. Let's fix it. So that didn't work. So I'm going to have to do B4 colon, and let's say I want to add up B4 through B7. Then I would type in B7 and then hit the parenthesis, and there it's adding B4 through B7. If I tap the cell again, it shows me with the red dotted line which cells it's actually adding up. There are many other functions, like I can do average, so I can type in average and then parenthesis B4 colon, oops, I typed it in wrong, B4 colon B7, and it will average those cells. Oops, not the J. There we go. And again, I can see the typing is in red, and the red dotted line tells me which cells it's averaging. Notice there is an equal sign before my equation. Oh, I messed up. You can hit the undo button. This little arrow undoes it. Oh, now I messed up again. I'm going to redo. Okay, well, it looks like I'll have to retype in my average, but I think you get the idea. I'd like you to try filling in these other two spreadsheets. One of them is a budget spreadsheet, and the third one is a gradebook spreadsheet. All right, good luck. I'll be around to give you a hand.